In 2005, two Wisconsin brothers founded a silencer research and development company called Hearing Protection LLC. After escaping Hillary Clinton's dangerously mismanaged State Department security program, these brothers went full tilt into standing up their own firearms company. Today, still under the watchful eye of government regulatory agencies, they survive as entrepreneurs of fortune. If you have a problem, if you have shitty kit, and you're in desperate need of an upgrade, maybe you can buy Griffin Armament.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 79th episode of the Dwell Time Podcast. My name is Ben. I'm here with Mitchell, and this is actually the first video podcast episode we've ever done, so pretty exciting. We're joined today by two very special guests, RJ and Aubrey from the Archer's Choice on the Outdoor Channel. So say hello, RJ and Aubrey.
Hey guys,
Hello.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Great to see you guys. We've been working with them for a long time. They've been using our suppressors for quite a while, and we just kind of wanted to have them on the podcast to talk about hunting with the suppressor and logistics of the hunt. So I'll kind of hand over to Mitchell. We can kind of jump right in.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, RJ and Aubrey, they just recently got back from a DIY moose hunt up in Alaska. And so we were really interested, Ben and I being avid hunters our whole life, being interested in kind of how this whole situation played out, and kind of the benefits of them having our suppressors on that hunt, and the logistics of all this. And it's just something that we thought would be really interesting personally for us and probably for a lot of listeners too. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we want to dive into today, guys. And so if you two just want to start, like Ben and I are just really interested in like, how does a hunt like this even start? Like, how does the average hunter go about booking this hunt?
Well, I would just say, depending on where you want to hunt, like we went to Alaska, and we were very good friends. My parents had hunted with Renfro's Alaskan Adventures up there for many, many years. Mm-hmm. And we knew Wade Renfro through my parents, and we got in contact that way. We actually met at the Dallas Safari Club, their convention that they throw on. And one thing led to another is after finding an outfit or outfitter that, if you're looking for DIY, that'll outfit you to get out there, they'll give you tents, they'll give you food, all that fun stuff. Or if you're just looking to do full DIY, most times you'll probably want somebody to fly you out into the tundra somewhere. And once you get kind of past that part of finding an outfit or outfitter, then comes all the technical stuff. Yeah. And that's a lot of like kind of figuring out how much weight you can bring, figuring out what you need to bring, what you don't need to bring. And that part was honestly a lot of just talking to people online, talking to mentors, talking to my parents, because they've done a lot of that stuff over the years, and understanding like, oh, maybe you don't need this big of a first aid kit. Right. Maybe you just need to make sure you have the essentials, like if something were to happen, and a lot of kind of deciphering from there as far as trying to figure out what you really need to bring.
Yeah, what's the need and what's the want. Yeah, essentially.
Once you find your outfit, then really they'll help you out with a lot of it.
Yeah.
Okay, what are a couple of those outlets for people? Like you mentioned the Dallas Safari Club shows, but maybe somebody can't make it to one of those. What are some other outlets that people can use to look for those types of hunts and look for those outfitters?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, other than like shows like DSC and stuff, online. I mean, you can find so much information online nowadays. There's so many different like Facebook pages, YouTube pages, Instagram pages that have people that go on these DIY hunts. And number one, if you watch somebody go and do a DIY hunt, like on YouTube or something of that sort, you kind of get a better grasp of what it entails. But also you can see how this outfit prepares you or gets you out there, depending if you want more or less help in the situation. And I mean, I would just recommend, if you can't make it to a show, just look online. Yeah. I'm being honest with you. Okay. Or talk to your friends in the area.
All right, cool. Yeah, so once you do find that outfitter and you get a hold of it and you book it all, right, and you do all that kind of stuff, what do the logistics look like after that? Like, how do you determine what what you need, what you don't need, what does a flight into the bush look like, all that kind of prep work. Like what I'm sure there's a laundry list of things to check off, but what, how do you do all that?
Well, we got really lucky with the outfit that we went with. They sent us like a whole packet to go over and everything.
Yeah.
So that was really helpful.
A very long list of things that they highly recommend.
Yeah.
Or even videos to watch.
Yes.
They gave us
have
some
links to videos, and then obviously talking to Ralph and Vicki helps a ton. And just, they gave us a lot of information to use.
Absolutely. And again, just like Aubrey just said, is if you know somebody that's done something like it before, or again, I mean, even finding videos online, it gives you a really good idea of what you'll probably end up using or needing. And it could be like little things most people forget about is for us, we are near a river, but another really easy way to grab water is have a tarp and just lay it in some sort of or attach it to a tree or lay it into some sort of little divot in the ground, depending on where you set up your camp. And it's a great way to collect drinkable water.
Yep. It's
just like the little things that certain people might have input on certain areas that others might not.
Yeah, I think especially for us hunting in Wisconsin, it's sort of like you get your gun, you get your Blaze Orange, you get your beer, and you go up north. And that's all you really need to worry about.
Right.
But obviously when you're flying into the middle of nowhere in Alaska, it's a pretty different game.
It's a whole other
animal
animal
kind of stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So what did
sure.
What did the flights look like for you guys? I mean, after you get to Alaska and you guys got to fly into where you're hunting, like how far of a journey was that from the regional airport to where you were hunting? And it looked like I saw the Instagram posts as you guys could post them. I know you guys had a limited amount of service and whatnot, but I saw you brought a little Starlink with you, which I thought was pretty cool. But how did that look like? It looked like you guys could only fly one at a time. And this is a two-parter. How did that all look? But also, this is one for you, RJ, because you and I are both in the same current situation with the newlywed. How nervous did that make you watching her fly away on an airplane and you couldn't be there?
Well, actually, he flew off without me first.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Bye, I guess.
Oh yeah, I can tell you, I was all smiles if I'm being honest with you, because it was awesome. I was so stoked to be going up in a little Piper Cub from the hangar, and I mean, it was crazy. Yeah. But to be able to share the experience with her is just like leading up to before we left for the trip, it was incredible to be able to finally sit down with, I can say, my wife and pack all of this stuff up and go over this very long list of stuff that we thought we needed, cutting it down to what we really needed.
Yeah.
And then trying to pack it all into our bags, having quite a few bags who were like right at 49.5 pounds.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we were cutting it really close.
Because we try to stuff we pretty much put our Alps packs in our frame packs and whatnot in our big waterproof duffel bags. And they were right on the edge there of being overweight, but we made everything fit.
Yep.
So how many flights did it take to get all your gear out there? Just 2?
So
on the way in.
On the way in, it took 1, 2, 3 flights in total, because so the first trip was myself, my gear, and then there was another plane, another little Piper Cub that they have that flew next to us on the way out with all the rest of the camp gear, like extra food and everything else. And then they landed, dropped me off. I started getting camp ready in this little bowl. It was awesome. Okay. And then they left. They went to get Aubrey, picked up
grabbed
Aubrey.
the rest of my gear and flew in. And it was nice because I was like, oh, RJ already has one tent set up already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I did have to help with the other one, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I moved everything down to the camp area. It was a beautiful little camp area. Yeah, nice. And as soon as we got there, before Aubrey even arrived, I'm like a little kid in the candy store, because I walked down into this little little draw, essentially, is what we were in, a little kind of a bowl that leads down to the river. And there's a couple of trees here kind of block the wind, because obviously Alaska can be pretty brutal with their weather. And I'm looking around, and I have footage of me like, I think we're going to set camp here all by myself, just doing this thing. And I look down, and I just see a beautiful moose shed. I'm like, no way. And then the moment I saw it and reacted, right to its left side was its pair. And I just...
So stupid lucky.
Yeah, that's pretty rare.
It's a sign, yeah.
And when we finally, I asked everybody, like, can we bring it back and everything else? And we just got word, last week, I think, that it was like $100 to bring it back. And I'm like, oh, $100 for a pair of moose sheds? Are you kidding me?
Right.
That is
Yeah, that's a bargain there.
Yeah. I got to ask, I'm kind of an airplane nerd, so I think people have this vision of bush pilots as like having these duct taped together. Like, what was the Piper like? Did you feel like you were going to die, or was it like pretty safe?
I honestly feel safer in those little planes than I do in a giant, like, normal Boeing, whatever the heck they are. Because you see you're not super freaking far up. You can actually see the ground. You can see the animals. Like, yeah. I mean, it looked a little janky, but I mean, these guys fly so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much made out of wood and metal and paper.
I don't
essentially, like a very thin layer of plastic. Like it's pretty much just an ultralight.
It's insane.
And
it's so cool.
I love them.
Though.
Absolutely. I like them more than beavers and otters. I like those little ones where we have a photo. I'll have to send you the photo of me. I'm a pretty big guy, and Wade is. I want to say he's probably 6'5", 6'7". So he's a very tall guy. I'm like 6'1", and let's just say I take up a lot of the room in that. So him and I both in one was.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. They're
pretty interesting.
Crammed. So funny.
Oh yeah.
Like straddling Wade. It was hilarious.
We got pretty comfortable on that flight.
Nice. I just had to ask.
Yeah, Ben used to work for EAA before he worked for us, so it's airplane
stuff. Yeah. Anyways,
it's really.
So now that you guys get you're starting to set up camp. What does that hunt look like actually? Like once you're there, like how on your own are you? Like does the guide like give you maps and locations and like have they done any sort of scouting in that area before? Like any idea where animals may be or what their patterns are like? Like how much information are you given prior to getting to location?
Really not much.
No, you
not
really
much at all.
gotta just do basically a lot of your own research. I mean, if you have questions, they'll answer them, obviously.
Yeah,
I mean,
they'll help you as far as like how to hunt the moose goes.
And calling and stuff, when you should call, when you don't really need to.
But the pilots can't give you any information. Nope. In Alaska, you can't hunt the same day you fly.
Right.
Oh,
so we flew in, we did some scouting.
But
once we landed, we've seen moose flying in.
I saw, I don't know about what you saw, but I saw a ton of moose. Mm-hmm. A lot of bulls, a lot of cows. I'm like, this is awesome. This is so
plenty
awesome.
I would say flying over, getting ready to land, we probably saw somewhere between 3 and 4 shooters within, I'd say, probably 2,000 to 2,500 yards of camp.
Wow.
Yep.
So right there, Aubrey and I were like,
oh my gosh,
stoked, like beyond stoked,
but like,
understanding.
When you're dropped off, you are on your own. Don't mind that. That's me being a cat.
Yeah, our cat.
Sorry. You are,
breaking in.
Yeah, she's.
Yeah, I don't know what
she likes to break everything.
It's a strong cat.
Oh well, we'll find out later.
Yeah,
it didn't sound like Gillespie.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's really exciting seeing them flying in, especially that close to you, like how close to camp you are, and then you land and you're just like, come on, when we wake up tomorrow morning, please let them still be there.
I just want to hear them. I want to see them. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So were they rutting when you were there? I mean, were you calling for that, or were you just doing like were you raking with a paddle and all that kind of stuff, or what were you doing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we were doing a bunch of she was doing a lot of everything, honestly.
No, we did it. We did a good team. She wouldn't let me film her do any calling because she's like, I don't want to, like I'm doing it bad. I'm like, look at me. I don't know what I'm doing.
So especially for women, they can be a little bit mean. So I'd like to get a little bit more practice under my belt if I'm going to be, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
You're just a girl, as you like to say.
I'm just a girl.
It's kind of crazy because one of the things that my parents taught us and what a lot of people taught us is keep in the back of your head when you go moose hunting, especially like yourself, the farther you walk away from camp, the farther you have to come back to camp.
Right. And drag the thing back.
We tried to stay within a mile to 2 miles. I think the farthest we ended up going from camp was like a mile and a half-ish.
Yeah.
And then we worked one. We almost got him that time, but we worked our way back around and ended up, a cow got him.
Yeah, that cow with him, he was gone.
It was frustrating.
But,
last day and everything. Oh, yeah. But
So did you know how close you were to other groups of hunters or no? Because I'm assuming you weren't the only ones out with that guide service or a guide service.
No, I want to say at the time we were out there, they had somewhere around 30 other hunters out.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Right.
But when you understand how big of an area it is and how open and how many moose are there, it's like 30 people almost doesn't feel like it's enough.
Right.
But that's a lot of. So they manage their game very professionally.
They do a great job. But I mean, yeah, I'm getting dropped off. We didn't know that we were where any of the other camps were, but it was actually really cool. I think almost a week in or something, or maybe 3 or 4 days. I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, we seen a Piper cub way, way, way out in the distance start landing. And I was like, oh, there's probably a camp over there. Someone probably got to move. It was really cool. Cool.
Every once in a while we would see like a beaver come flying within probably, 5-10 miles from us, just up in the sky. And we'd put up our binos or our spotting scope, and we would just see on the inside of the plane how they mount them, especially on the little Piper cubs. They'll mount the moose racks on the brace of the wing.
Yeah.
So you can see the
outside the plane.
Yeah. We have photos.
Awesome.
Yeah, we could send that.
Yeah, it is so cool.
Yeah, please send that. That'd be cool to see.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How much time do you guys think you spent on glass when you were there? Was it 8 hours a day? You're just on glass, or what? How much was it?
Yeah,
I would say yeah.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
We were there for pretty much 2 weeks. We lost, I would say, somewhere around 5 days
because of
to weather.
Yep.
Miss Lucky over here ends up smacking hers the first day, the first morning.
But what he's not telling. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it was going to be a bow hunt. We got within 80 yards of him. We really did.
And I was trying with my bow. She was just ready with a gun.
I was like, I'm not silly. Get a gun. Come on, get real.
Was the tag for either or, rifle or bow?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So he could have picked up the gun, but he really wanted to get one with his bow. Yeah. So I don't blame you. No.
I understand that. I'm a big bow hunter too.
Yep. Yep.
It's a thing.
It is.
I love guns, but certain animals, I want to swap with an arrow.
Yep. Yep. I totally get it.
Mm-hmm. So, but behind the glass, we probably spent a good 8+ hours a day, not counting time we're raking, calling, or hiking.
Yeah, just glassing.
Yeah, because there was a lot of hiking, a lot of kind of trying to move, figure out if we would see a bull, we would try to make a move on it. Where we were at, thankfully, our spotting point was really only 300-400 yards behind camp up on a hill.
It wasn't bad.
So thankfully, our hike in the morning wasn't bad whatsoever. So we would go hike up to that point, and we would see a vast majority of the ground around us. There was one portion to our that would have been, I think, east. I don't remember at this point, but it was to the backside of camp where our wind would pretty much always go, and we avoided that until later in the week when finally the wind kind of switched around some. But where we were, so the area we were hunting, we had kind of a little bowl that we had our camp in. Down from camp, probably 500-600 yards, was a pretty big river, which if you were to cross it, there was probably another 100-200 yards until a big, thick timber. And then on the other side, pretty much outside of that river, it went into draws and just tundra. So it was a lot of flat areas with some timber and ponds, just little splotches though. And we tended to hunt kind of out in that open where we could see a moose before they went to the timber, and we would try to bust our butts getting over closer to the timber that it went into and see if we can't call, rake, do whatever we could to try to get it to come our way. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Right. Yeah, I mean, obviously you guys aren't the only things out there. What did you guys do for like bears and stuff?
Like predator protection.
Yeah.
Well, this one's pretty good at protecting camp, you could say.
Yeah, so there was a little black bear that was hanging around. I actually seen him flying into camp, but we hadn't seen him for, I think, a few days.
Yeah, it was, I think, 3 days or something like that before we seen him again.
And, of course, we were sitting out on this little hill, and we were hunting moose for RJ, but then we see this little black bear, and I'm like, well, I have a black bear tag. Why not?
Right.
Exactly.
So, got him. Perfect.
Smacked him.
We didn't really have any issues with bears coming into camp. I mean...
No, we saw... So after you shot your moose day one, it was what, 5 or 6 days later that we finally saw a brown bear. And
I wasn't very happy about that though, because those things freaked me out.
I was so
brown
stoked.
bears, woo, scare me, scare me a little bit.
And where she shot her moose was probably 600, 700 yards as the crow flies from camp.
Yep.
And it was kind of coming off of her moose, running out towards the tundra from us. So I'm like, a big brown thing way out in the distance.
Thought it was a moose.
It's got to be a moose. I pull up my glasses and I'm looking and I'm like, Aubrey, that's a bear. And she's like, what?
I'm like, no. Keep running that way. Keep going.
We only seen it for a split second. I just see this big old brown butt running. I was like, that's so cool.
But I mean, we had 2 different tents. So we had our sleeping tent and a food tent. And so, how far apart do you think they were? Like
about 80 yards.
80 yards. Yeah, I'm still learning yardage. So we would just pack up our food at night, make sure all the dishes were washed and everything, and zipped up the food tent and had no issues there. So thank God.
Yeah, the biggest thing is staying clean.
Yeah, you just
that's what everyone said.
Yep.
So we tried our best.
Yeah, didn't want to risk it.
No.
Right. Yeah, you don't need a visitor.
Right. Well, yeah. Piggybacking on that, what did you guys bring for food? Was it all like dehydrated? How many days were you out there? I don't even know.
Well, we were out there for, I think it was 13 by the end because we had an extra day.
But so they provided everything for us. They had a giant tote full of just food, like the Knorr pasta, a lot of, what do you call that? Like kielbasa. Oh yeah, they give you a bunch of meat, pastas, soups, breakfast. We had
hot cocoa.
We had hot cocoa, pancake mix. Like we had it all. They spoil the crap out of you there. And then they actually brought.
And that's all part of like their normal hunting package, is that?
So you can choose to be outfitted or not outfitted.
Right.
And depending on what you choose, not only changes like if they provide food or tents or sleeping bags or whatever else you might request. But also it'll change how much weight you can bring because then all that weight that they'd be supplying is now on you.
Exactly.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So did they drop that all off like the first day and then leave you for 13, or they kind of resupply halfway through, or just drop you and leave you?
Yeah.
You gotta get your stuff out, but we did.
The only time they would come back would be pick up her moose and then pick up her bear. And they did that pretty much as soon as they can to, number one, help preserve as much meat as possible. While we're out there, you try to get it on some sort of a meat rack, or if you can, just off of the ground. So obviously you can get air through it, start cooling that meat down as much as possible. And then same thing for hide and head, they'll come and pick up. And out there, what we'd have to do is you bring the meat back first. So, like for her moose was 700 yards, and it wasn't a bad hike. It's just the tundra sucks to hike on in general.
Right, it's soft, right?
Sorry?
It's just soft, right?
Yeah, soft and like super uneven.
It's like you're walking on like a
sponge,
like a ball that like a mushroom, I guess. But it just goes like it. You can't ever trust anything out there. You really just can't. You just gotta watch it. Because I fell. He fell with 2 quarters on his back. I fell with a quarter on my back, and I got wet. And you got wet, and it was miserable.
And this was all on day one.
You're really selling this. That sounds great.
It was.
Yeah.
I can't confirm. I was stubborn. I tried to be stubborn. That's something my mom and dad told me not to do.
I told him that too.
She told me multiple
I'm
times.
like,
I might have been punched in the shoulder a couple times while we were out there. And I was like, oh, I think I can get two moose quarters.
And I'm like,
I carried it a good 50 yards.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, this probably isn't a smart idea.
Yeah, a moose quarter is not quite a whitetail quarter.
No.
Thank you.
Well, it doesn't help that a while back my dad shot one, and I was feeling all tough, and I've been working out, doing all the strength training and all this other stuff, and I carry 3/4 out of an elk. I'm like, oh yeah, look at me, I'm a big tough guy.
Oh my god.
Nope.
Well, a back strap on a moose is like 6 feet long, so.
Yeah.
Those
and like
were
this thick.
heavy
Right.
as hell. Oh my gosh. But so worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Moose meat,
Yeah.
my favorite.
And we already got it all back, which is crazy.
Yep.
It was crazy fast.
How many pounds of meat did you get off that bull?
We got 400.
About 400 pounds of meat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Right.
Well, since we kind of jumped to that topic, we can kind of come back to the list of questions we have here. But for the people who hadn't seen the video or the stuff that you guys have posted on the hunt, that moose died in what looked like near or at least thigh high water. How was that getting that out of there? Because they're not quite like a whitetail where you can just grab the antler and drag them. They're pretty heavy. So getting it out of that water to at least get the guts out of the thing and start to cut it up. I mean, what did that fiasco look like with just the two of you out there?
You want to explain that one?
Okay, so I'll start off by this. I saw him go down. I saw water kick up. I'm like, okay, he's in a little bit of water.
But what was the number one rule that my mom and dad told us before we
don't
left?
shoot him in the water. Granted, he was not in the water when I shot him.
You followed the rule at least halfway.
Exactly. And he's like, Aubrey, you're going to want to put him down before he gets to that water. I'm like, he's a cake. No, he got to that water. And we walked up, and I'm like, oh, crap. Like, just instant, like, oh, God, we're going to be here all day. We're not going to be able to quarter this moose. How the hell are we going to get him out of this water? I'm like, it's just RJ and I. But, it was thigh deep, and it was a pain in the butt.
Yeah, we worked for hours on that moose, just moving it. His
antlers would get stuck in the grass, the tall grass, the moss, mud, and my gosh, I would never have been able to do that by myself, obviously. So
it all comes to teamwork for those things, because
you just gotta
take your time. Don't overdo yourself. Don't strain yourself.
Exactly.
Because if you do that, then you're going to be kaput for the rest of the day, if not tomorrow.
Well, and then day one of the hunt, you gas yourself, and then you're there for 12 more days.
I know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but we worked on that for hours.
Yeah, we were
just moving it.
We'd work on one side. He would push one side. I would try and move the antlers, and we did that for a little bit. And then it came to a point where we were like, okay, we have a rope. We can try pulling it with a rope, but the rope gets wet and you're pulling, and it's like burning your hands. It's a whole ordeal. But then eventually we got it to work.
We got it probably a little bit, just about a yard, maybe a little bit less than a yard off the bank.
It was like 2 hours of just pushing and pulling, and we rolled him once,
and then we had to cut him up.
But we fine. Not a lot of the meat was damaged, thank God. Like the water doesn't really touch it much.
We used kind of the cut job was on the hide itself. Ooh. Thankfully, Aubrey didn't want to save for a shoulder mount on that one, because the cut job wasn't the best.
I would have. It's just that it was going to be a pain in the butt to save that hide. So, it's all good.
So we used the hide kind of to help guide the water away from the meat.
Okay.
Because we were still in about low shin deep, where on the far side from the moose. And we kind of used the water to help guide. We kind of used the hide to guide the water away from the meat, and it would kind of hold it out. After a while, it'd start kind of getting over the backside where it was cut. But we managed to do a very good job. Yeah. I think.
We got a lot of that meat out.
Yeah.
So,
How long did it take you to cut them up?
Oof.
Well,
it was probably 3 hours.
3 or 4 hours.
3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
And then, 3 or 4 hours about,
Basically just
first time
deboning, right? Did you debone them, or you just got them in game bags as roughly as you could and sent it out?
You can saw some of the leg off, though, up to his knee.
Yeah, anything that's pretty much not edible.
Yeah, you can.
So up to that kind of bottom joint of their elbow there.
Okay.
Depending on which quarter you're talking about, we could saw that off, and we had one of my dad's old saws.
That was a lifesaver.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. So we used that. We had all of our little switchable click and cut knives and all that stuff. So we went to work on it pretty quick. But I think if we would have been able to debone it,
oh my gosh,
it would have been a lot lighter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There's a big difference between hanging weight and what you end up with. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Big time.
Yep.
So, kind of, and obviously we're looking to tie this into the new cans you guys are running for us. And so on that, how did having that new Sportsman Ultra Light give you guys an advantage over maybe other hunters in the area, or what advantages do you think that it gave you versus some of the guys who were running unsuppressed?
Honestly, it's like in a lot of cases where when you're out hunting, and especially in our situation where she's going with the rifle, I'm going with the bow,
right.
I'm going to have to get pretty close to some moose to smack them with an arrow.
Yep.
Having that can on her gun, after you shot your moose, literally we still had moose around us. We had a bull pushing some cows. Yeah. We had another bull off to another hillside.
They weren't even bothered.
And they just kind of looked over at us and were like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And just went back to their thing. And you just watch them keep pushing the cows. The other bull kind of looked up into the timber away from us, and we're like, awesome. So we kind of try to, as much as we could, we tried to be as kind of, I guess you could say, elegant in a way. Stealthy, however you want to put it, to avoid spooking them at all, just by having our bodies move around and whatnot. But yeah, it's incredible how suppressors have changed the game.
Well, and even, so we're not close to any other camps, but we could hear gunshots. We could hear them.
You know when they have or don't have a suppressor. Especially being a mile, like multiple miles away, I should say.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think the word... I think the word you used, elegant, is actually a really good word. It sounds kind of weird, but it's like, I think that's kind of the appeal to bow hunting is it's very human. You're in the space. You're not making a lot of noise. You have to be quiet. You got to get up close. I think suppressors kind of give you that feel, and it kind of takes some of the technology out of it almost. It's more technology, but you're not at least personally, I feel like it kind of puts you back in that serene environment. You don't have to wear earplugs. You don't have to worry about making a ton of noise. So I think elegant is kind of a good word for that.
Yeah. How did, and you guys have obviously...
But elegant myself.
And obviously you guys have been on quite a few of these types of hunts. How did that experience compare to, let's say, a moose hunt that maybe you've been on and filmed for your parents, RJ, that they were not suppressed? Like how did the other animals in the area react comparatively?
Yeah, well, the only moose hunt I've really been on is Newfoundland with efforts, and we take our guns up there, and in Canada you can't use suppressors. And actually, Aubrey just got back.
Yeah, sorry, I'm blinking, but yeah. So I just went up to Newfoundland and filmed a moose hunt, and they did not have suppressors on those guns. I'm like, oh god.
And now that you're used to having it, it's night and day different.
It is absolutely night and day.
And I know when I went last year, but especially 2 years ago, or maybe it was 2019. I don't remember. But a couple of years ago, I hunted up there, and then I filmed my mom shoot one. And I recall there were a couple moose in the area, especially the moose that were near the moose that we ended up shooting. And after you hear that shot, they scatter. They're like,
yes, I saw that.
What the hell? And they look around. They try to figure it out after they run a certain distance. Moose it seems like they're a little bit more curious, so they kind of go up a ways and then they'll stop, look back at you, try to figure it out. But yeah, no, there's definitely a difference where, you shoot suppressed and you can see that something, they hear it, so they're kind of like, What? Yeah. But it's not that crack that they hear, that bang from the actual muzzle device, just letting all of that pressure out of at the end of the gun there. Yep.
So, I mean, sort of on the same topic, do you think using a suppressor in your area that you guys were designated kind of allowed you to get closer to the other moose in the area after Aubrey took her shot at her moose and her bear? Do you think that gave you an advantage to maybe potentially give you a couple more opportunities that you wouldn't have otherwise had continuing on later in the hunt, especially with a bow?
Yeah,
I mean, I think so.
I would say absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, literally, as she shot her moose, there were still moose around us. So if
hanging out,
if we were to decide, we would go take care of that moose first, and that's why we didn't go after them. But like the moment after she shot, we still could have went
gone
and hunted
after another bull.
Yeah, another bull in that area right there. Within, I would say the farthest one was probably 400 yards from us, 500 yards from us. And we had a couple that we were even closer. So I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's super interesting. Yeah. I don't, my experience with big game hunting is whitetail and elk with what I used to do for a living, but then they're definitely a lot more spooky, I guess is maybe the word, than what I've seen just from over the years of watching TV and moose hunts and that kind of stuff. And so I genuinely didn't know how they would react in comparison. But that's interesting. That they're different like that.
Yeah. 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 Oh, 100%.
Moose are they just much more like are they kind of like Bullwinkle where they just kind of do this and they just kind of go with the flow. They're not really like worried about much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would make a comparison to my parents' dog, but you guys probably won't understand it.
I was thinking the same.
But if pretty much you could compare a whitetail or better yet, like a pronghorn to our dog Captain, because he is wired. He's a Florida cur. He is crazy. And Leo, my parents' dog, is a big English lab, big old brick head on him. And
pretty much.
I mean, if you ever met one of them, you know exactly how an English lab is.
Chill.
You can throw a piece of cheese at them and it's going to land on their nose before they even open their mouth, type of thing. And that's how I look at moose. It's just like, I think they are just happy to be around.
They are. And they're so majestic.
They are.
The way that they move and they sway their heads back and forth.
And it's one of those animals that there's really no ground shrinkage, no matter the case. Because walking up to it, it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you're like, ow. That is a lot bigger than it looks standing at 150 yards.
What did I get myself into here, kind of a thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially when they die in the water.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
Yeah. How does moose taste? I've never had moose. I don't know if
I've had moose pastrami, and that was really, really good. Yeah.
Is it like venison kind of?
Divine. It's like sweet.
Yeah, it has more of a sweet taste to it.
And like if you cook it right, Vicki is a phenomenal. She's like the Traeger master. She makes delicious moose burgers. And they like melt in your mouth.
Mm-hmm. She puts like jalapenos and stuff in it.
So good. And she just uses salt and pepper and
nothing crazy.
Nothing crazy.
The moose meat speaks for itself.
It really 100%.
Does when you have.
Yep. Yeah, I've had very little of it. I had a client at my old job bring in moose pastrami one time and made sandwiches for us in the stand, and that was insane. From then on, I was interested in a moose hunt, but from then on, I've been like super into wanting to go on a moose hunt because it was just delicious, and I want 400 pounds of meat in the freezer would be pretty awesome. So
400 pounds of phenomenal meat.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, not just some 80-20, it's some good stuff.
Yes. I'm more of a duck hunter than anything else. And sometimes I don't even wonder why I do it. Cause wild duck is nothing. There's something left to be desired about duck meat.
Yeah. I mean, there's also,
like I eat it
ways to cook it.
I shot it, but it's like, I'd rather have elk than a cow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. In my opinion, you duck hunt to put one on the wall and then you just hang it up after that. But
right.
Have you guys ever had duck roll-ups? Goose roll-ups?
I think so. I mean, I've had a variety. I do like a jalapeno popper with them personally.
That's exactly. Yeah. We just pull them like roll up essentially.
Yeah.
Where we take the duck meat or goose meat, roll it up essentially around a jalapeno popper, put bacon around that. Then.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah, and then next time you do it, marinate it in teriyaki sauce, teriyaki and pineapple. The Lowry's teriyaki and pineapple. Let it sit in that for like a day and throw it on a charcoal grill. I'm telling you, that's the best way to do it. Yeah.
You're gonna send me a text after this and just remind me how.
I think we should have a joint meal with Mitch and Vicki on the smokers, because Mitch is a pretty darn good smoker too.
Yeah. I cook here for the company every now and then, so
that'd be a meal.
For I think it was the chili contest.
Chili contest, right? Yeah. I took second. Yeah, and I did a smoked brisket chili for that.
It was good.
Yeah,
it was good.
I think we need to have a cook-off between you and my mom.
I guarantee your mom would whoop me.
My money's on Vicki. That's all I have to say.
If I could bet on it, I'd bet Vicki too.
I'll judge.
There you go. That's the easy way to do it. All right. So
I guess kind of getting to the end of this here, what are do you have any overall thoughts on the Sportsman? I mean, obviously you guys have a lot of experience with our Explorer suppressors. That was kind of our hunting suppressor in the past, and now we've put out the Sportsman. That one's really geared towards the hunting market. So I guess thoughts on that compared to the Explorer that you've been using for a couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you shot your moose and the bear with it on the X-Bullets, the Brownings, and my dad just shot a beautiful bull elk in Utah with it.
I saw that. Yeah.
I don't remember how long ago that was. 2 weeks ago or something. I'm lost. I think Alaska threw my time off for the entire fall. Yeah. But I would honestly, I think the key with the Sportsman, in my opinion, is the pricing of it. The competitive pricing that you guys have on that can is just out of this world, especially to the kind of everyday hunters, whether you're an eastern whitetail hunter or you're western mule deer / elk, whatever it might be. It's in my mind, especially being new to a lot of the suppressor stuff, we've really only used suppressors for this. I think it'll be coming on our third year now. Mm-hmm. And to me, before I really started understanding a lot more of it, it was always just a very expensive thing to get into. Yeah. And you guys are just fighting that. You guys are combating that right now with the Sportsman's Ultra Light series. And I just want to say thank you guys, because for people like us, especially like a newlywed that maybe can't, that are on a budget. Yeah. I mean, you guys are making everything that much more possible.
Yeah, I think that's,
and I mean,
that was definitely like our biggest goal with that. Cause I mean, obviously the average hunter doesn't want to have to drop $1,500 on a thing that they're going to use for one shot a year for whitetail deer season. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Right. And before we had come out with the units, we were still doing some preliminary R&D on that at SHOT Show this past year, kind of wrapping up R&D, I guess. And I had talked to you guys about it there, and I talked to your dad about it at quite length, actually. I talked to your dad about that can and kind of the goal behind it. And he was super excited, and I'm going to use his words. He said developing a product for Bubba was great. Was a great idea, he thought, because let's say somebody can't afford a Browning, X-Bolt Speed or a Hell's Canyon or a Max Target long range, right? They can't afford that $1,500 to $2,000 gun, so they go and buy a $500 Savage Access that has an optic on it, and
Weaver, baby, Weaver 1-7.
Yeah, right. These guys like. They don't have $1,000 to put into a silencer, and then they definitely don't have $1,200 after the tax stamp and maybe some transfer fees and whatnot. But maybe not this year, but maybe even next year they've got $600, to go spend on a can, and that's what that Sportsman, the 300 comes in at is $600, and the 36 is $650. So, and that's MSRP. Street price is even a little bit lower than that. So. At a local dealer, you're going to find it for a few points less than that. But that was definitely one the major pushing point with that product was the price point, and something that I had our engineers and owner of the company knew that was an important part of it, but it was something that I was pushing for. Ben has heard me talk about it for almost 2 years now, and I've been with the company for 3 years, and I've been pushing for it forever, as long as I've been here, because of the industry that I came from, which was the hunting industry, the high fence hunting industry, and I saw the target audience there, and I saw the potential breakthrough in that industry, and nobody had really tapped it yet. Right. There are other manufacturers who are starting to, but they're not in that price point. They're not in that competitive price point for the everyday hunter, and that was the big push with that unit.
Absolutely, and I know it's doing phenomenal as far as camps that we've went to, people that have experienced it. I know you might have even talked to some of our friends down in Florida, but
they bought some.
Yeah,
he texted me. He's like, "Hey, how do you like that new can?" I was like, "Man, you were going to be in love with it." And I think he texted me like the next day. He's like, "I think I just ordered a couple," so I know they're super stoked about that.
I think they ordered 6.
Yeah,
if I remember right.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think you have to give them. I'm going to give them crap later.
Yeah, because they were. That was the guys down in Florida, right, with the alligator hunting and the hog hunting, that suppressed thermal hog hunt that you guys did last year, right? I remember them being very, very impressed with the explorers when you guys were down there with that. So that was cool to hear.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I know they were using a couple different brands on a couple different of their guns at the time, and when we went down there with our explorers, I know my buddy at least was like, "All right, I'm switching. I'm making the switch now." And I know that's actually another good talking point, though, is with the new Sportsman series you guys have now, is no matter what can you're coming from, you guys are making adapters to fit whatever proprietary, essentially, muzzle brake system that person might have, right?
Yeah, muzzle brakes and mounting options. So with that new one that you have, it's a hub can. So it's a 1375 threaded in the rear. So if there's somebody out there who is married to a different manufacturer's mounting system, they can still buy the Sportsman and run it, and not have to spend a bunch of money on muzzle devices and that kind of stuff. So it is versatile in that sense as well. Okay, we kind of briefly touched on it, but so you guys have been running the cans, and so have your parents. What kind of, I'm not asking you to put words in their mouth, but what kind of other similar experiences, have they had with our product on their hunts, and seeing the effects of using a silencer and not alarming herds of elk or whitetail or what have you? What has been their kind of experience with everything as well?
Yeah, not to put words in their mouth like you just said, but I know we've talked about a handful of times, as far as, especially with my dad being such an avid bow hunter, that it doesn't necessarily by any means replicate bow hunting, but it gets you one step closer to, like, I guess we were talking earlier, that more elegant feel when you're in the timber, or in the woods, or on the tundra, or wherever you might be. You're not as disruptful to the environment around you while you're hunting with the suppressor. And not only does that make it a better experience for you yourself, the hunter, or the people around you, whether you have a cameraman or guide or whoever it might be, a buddy out there with you, but also the animals. Yep. It doesn't bother them as much, and it's fantastic that way. But it also doesn't interfere with really kind of their daily life. So it's not like you're startling them. It's not like you're making them do something that, like, if they start running and they trip, there's less stress that you put on the animals while you are out hunting. And I know I've talked to my dad plenty of times, and I've talked to my mom the same way. And I know as well for you, one of the biggest things that I think you enjoy now is it's not as not scary, but it's like it's more enjoyable to just shoot.
It is,
whether you're hunting or not.
It's loud.
There's less recoil.
Less recoil for sure.
Yeah, it makes it for so much a better experience, both in and out of the woods.
It's just fun too to just hear the difference, to compare and contrast.
I will say, a couple weeks ago, the first time I ever put a suppressor on a pistol, other than my buddies, was just like a couple weeks ago. You guys, we got the Sportsman's series, and I was talking to you, and I'm like, okay, so I got it mounted, all's good, everything's good. I was making sure because you had made sure that that mount was in there for the pistol.
Yep.
And I shot it, and I was so excited.
I was a little cute.
Like, Aubrey, come here.
I'm trying to cook dinner, man.
I know. I come right into the house. I'm like, Aubrey, you got to come try this.
And
she goes, hey, I don't have suppressor sights or anything on there, so you're just essentially aiming blind. But I was like a little kid in a candy store. I was just so excited.
It was pretty cool. Pretty sweet, for sure.
I think we need to do a pistol hunt on a hog or something with suppressed.
That'd be fun.
I think we should. I love pistols. I love it. So
I get excited. Sorry.
No, it's
super cool. It sounds like the squirrel population in your backyard is in trouble with the suppressed pistols.
Yeah.
Well, and the checkmates that they have.
Yeah, the 22 stuff. So I know you guys kind of live not off the grid, but you're out there in the wilderness and kind of remote. So obviously you got that suppressor through our To Your Door program. How was that whole experience? Because obviously it's kind of weird if you've never bought a suppressor before and you're like, oh, I can just get this shipped to my house. It's kind of weird. So maybe just kind of talk about how that was maybe beneficial for you being far from a dealer, if you don't have a dealer nearby or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, our nearest dealer is probably an hour and a half from us.
Yeah.
So it's not like something we can just, we got to go sign for stuff, run in and do that stuff, come back home. And then again, it's not, it ends up being a day. So when you guys first kind of released this or announced it to us, we're like, oh, that's
the game changer. Mm-hmm.
How does that work? And then we're like, how do we start?
Yeah.
So yeah, we went through and I did the whole kit and caboodle on it. Honestly, it was extremely easy. And I'm not saying that just to brown nose by any means. I don't mean it in that way. I've went through the process before of going to the dealer, trying to understand that whole ordeal. And I mean, it's easy to go. The dealers usually will help you out and they'll help explain it. But your guys' step-by-step process, it's simple.
Yeah,
very, very convenient.
When we kind of launched the program, I think we were kind of expecting a lot more confusion. And I will say Capital's been really great about making everything super simple, and we really haven't seen much confusion, which is cool.
Yeah, and they're great about educating, end users too with it. We've staffed up internally to help with that as well. But Capital has been doing it for a long time, and they're very helpful and very educational to people who call in with questions. So it's been a really, really cool program, and people have taken advantage of it, and of the monthly specials and promos and stuff that we do with it too. And it's been a really great thing for people who like yourself don't have a dealer nearby, and or maybe their stocking dealer doesn't carry the product that they want from us, and so they're able to purchase it at any time. So it's been a great program, and we're glad that you guys were able to take advantage of it and enjoy it as well. So
it was still have it show up at the door, but
that'll be there soon.
Yeah. So final, just wrap up. What else? What do you guys got coming up? Any big news? Any big hunts on the horizon? Anything weird or exciting you guys have on the slate for the next year?
Well, coming next week, or I should say this weekend, Sunday, we start running like crazy at the time that we're filming this. Upcoming is what I like to call our whitetail tour. Yeah. Although you'll be going to Utah with my mom to go smack a mule deer with her rifle with her baby. Mm-hmm. My dad and I will be going to Oklahoma, and then we'll all meet in Illinois for whitetail. Yep. And then there might be Missouri in there somewhere. Otherwise, we'll be coming back out here for elk and mule deer
as well.
Back here in Colorado, and then from there we might be running to Alabama for more rifle whitetail, and then Florida possibly for muzzleloader whitetail and hogs. And
we'll
be busy.
It's a little crazy
at
this point,
awesome.
But yeah, it's fun.
Well, speaking of muzzleloaders, I saw those new ones that you guys have, and they're threaded. So if you can get your hands on a 45 cal version of one of those, your bushwhacker that you got in the To Your Door program will work beautifully for that.
I will see what I can do, because that's something we're gonna have to.
Oh my God,
we're gonna have to figure out if that works nicely, and I'm sure it will. I just don't know how to do that.
Yeah, that'd be really neat to do a suppressed muzzleloader hunt.
Oh, I would keep that with her.
Well, we'll have to talk more about that one.
Yes, yes, we will. Okay, so this moose hunt we've been talking about, when are we going to be able to watch it on the Outdoor Channel? When's that coming out?
So that'll be airing on television next year. Yeah, it'll probably be third quarter, which starts in January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Starts in July.
Okay, so July of next year.
So mixed up with everything. So yeah, no, that'll be coming next year on television. Hopefully sooner than that on possibly YouTube channels, or we've kind of kept up with a lot of it on like social media and stuff like that. But we might have more coming up, hopefully.
Cool. Well, for everybody listening, thank you all very much for joining in. Be sure to check out RJ and Aubrey on Instagram and YouTube. Instagram handle at RJ and Aubrey, and then the YouTube is Archer's Choice. Be sure to check them out, and we'll try to throw some of the clips that you guys are going to send us of the moose hunt and stuff in here as we're talking about it. So hopefully you guys can get a little visual on what everything was going on. So thank you guys very much for joining us. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to hop on the call with us and be on this podcast for the first recorded episode of the Dwell Time podcast. Hopefully we can have you back again soon. Maybe your Ralph and Vicki can hop on as well next time, and we can have a big powwow about hunting again. It was a lot of fun.
It's all right.
Yes, it really is.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.
Talk to you later.